President Donald Trump and the group called Secure Our Borders is having an event in Washington, D.C. They have victims of people, victims of illegals, essentially, people who have lost loved ones, testifying on stage, talking about things as to reminding us all why this whole illegal immigration thing is dangerous. And this is really, really a good move. I'm heartened to see something like this going on. We were going to try to bring you some of President Trump's comments as they were happening. He and Vice President Pence are still on stage talking about it, but they're just kind of bringing up one person after another and sharing their stories. These are stories that you have heard, by the way, on KNSI's Ox in the Afternoon over the years as we broadcast from the border of Mexico. We've actually broadcast our show, many of you remember this, just a year or two ago, from the actual border, right on the border, at the fence of the Mexican-Arizona border, talking to people, ranch owners right there who have lost loved ones to illegals coming across the border. The sanctuary cities that are allowing these illegals to be here, in many cases resulting in injury or death of law-abiding citizens minding their own business who never should have been in danger by these people in the first place. All of this going on as we're talking about what to do with the families at the border. And I think the biggest outrage for me today, if you have not heard this yet, we'll be talking about it more on the KNSI Friday 4, but I would open it up for a topic throughout the show today. That cute little girl in the red dress that was crying at the Mexican border at one of these detention centers, apparently, made to look like and publicized to forward the notion that Donald Trump and his immigration policies of ripping families apart are not just hypothetical. Look, here's this little girl standing in a detention center, bawling her eyes out. So we all imagine what it's like now as, Donald, or people dressed up like Donald Trump or working for Donald Trump in big, heavy uniforms are grabbing her mother and throwing her mother up against the wall, handcuffing her, throwing her into a jail cell, leaving this little girl standing all alone in the middle of this lonely, hard detention center floor, wondering where her mother is going to go, what she's ever going to do moving forward, and having some bureaucrat come up and grab this girl and say, come with me, we'll give you a juice box and some Go-Gurt, and we'll call up some bureaucrat, and they'll come and pick you and 25 people just like you up in a hot bus with no air conditioning and take you off somewhere to an uncertain future with people you've never known before, possibly never seeing your family again. Maybe I'm taking it a little too far, but that is what that picture is supposed to convey, is it not? Is it not? So now we find out that this little girl was not taken from her family. Her mom was right there the whole time. And the dad is wondering why the mom took this little girl away from the rest of their family in Tegucigalpa, Honduras, in the first place. Meanwhile, the entire world rallies around this little girl being so unjustly taken away from her mother by Donald Trump, only to have it be bogus.
Completely false.
Completely false.
Wow.
Unreal. Not only completely false, but the entire opposite of the narrative.
Right.
One thing to be false, but it's another thing to actually be the opposite. Oh, my...
Yes.
And by the way, I hope you appreciate my stream of consciousness there and going along with what that photo was supposed to convey, because you know I'm right. If you could just go with it, you know what they were trying to get across. And you also know that they succeeded. I mean, this wasn't like one of those things where, yeah, we all saw through it. No, we bite on these things, and the next time something happens, we're going to bite on that too. Pete Stauber, when Pete gets elected into Congress, he'll straighten this whole thing out. Won't you, Pete?
Good afternoon. How are you? That's what I'm going to Congress for, to problem solve, without a question.
Oh, thank goodness. Well, Pete Stauber, candidate for Congress in Minnesota's District 8 up north. The district, the kind of the epicenter, apparently getting the president's attention. The whole reason for the presidential visit in Duluth this week. Man, that's gotta be kind of a bucket list or beyond type thing for you, huh, Pete?
You know what? It was an extremely awesome event, and for me, it was surreal. But you know what? We talk about the president and his support for our way of life, and he gets Minnesota. He gets Minnesota, and
makes one of us.
It was a really great experience. I mean, just from the time to see Air Force One land at the Duluth International Airport and to see, how massive that plane is, and then the United States President of the United States symbol on it. I mean, I was there as it pulled up to the tarmac, and I had a lump in my throat. I felt so prideful. It was an amazing experience.
Wow. Well, the best thing you can do now to appreciate that even more is to win. You got to win that congressional seat, Pete.
Well, you know what? We're working hard. I've been on the campaign trail for a year now. And, not only Republicans, but we're getting Democrats and independents alike that are putting party labels aside and understand that I'm fighting for the people of the 8th District, not any particular party. And if it's good for our district, I'm going to fight for it for the right reasons. And that's resonating with people. And I've done that not only as a Hermantown City Councilor, but now in my second term as a St. Louis County Commissioner.
So you've been elected. St. Louis County, a huge county, obviously. Hermantown, too, a great community, good anchor community up in that area. So people know you. They're used to seeing you on the ballot. They're used to voting for you. So you're saying there's a chance.
You know what? We're feeling very, very good. I mean, the message, my blue-collar, common-sense, conservative message is resonating. That's who we are in the district. And, I'm not what I say to people in Ely, Minnesota is the same I'll say in Park Rapids, Wadena, Hinckley, or downtown Duluth. Nothing changes, and the people respect that.
So, Pete, let's talk about some of the issues that you're championing. Assuming "Make Mining Great Again" is a slogan you would stand behind.
Say that again. I didn't get that.
Make mining great again.
Yeah, so I'm the only candidate in the race that will stand up and say I support iron ore, precious metals mining, and Enbridge Line 3. That's good for our economy, good for our environment. We know Enbridge Line 3, the company said that line needs to be replaced, so there isn't an issue, an environmental concern. With 21st technology, not only in the pipeline business, but in the mining business, the copper nickel mining is ready to explode up here. And what I've been telling people is that just Polymet alone, that copper nickel mine, will bring $500+ million a year to our local economy. Wow. That's like bringing the Super Bowl, the economics of last year's Super Bowl down to Minneapolis. That's like bringing that Super Bowl up to the Iron Range in northeastern Minnesota every year for a minimum of 20 years. And when you put it in that sense, people get it. It's about great jobs for our community. It's about keeping people living in the 8th District, and they shouldn't have to leave if they don't want to.
All right. Well, lofty goals. The plans are all in place, right? It's unfortunately now just a matter of political wrangling to get this done.
Yeah. Yep. We're going to work hard. Like I say, it's been a year. We're just the pedal to the metal. The gas is full throttle, and we're really looking forward to the election. Our message is the right message, and we're seeing that throughout the district. And very happy, and I appreciate you having me on for a couple minutes this afternoon. I want you and your listeners to have a great weekend.
Well, we appreciate that, Pete, and congratulations, by the way, for having the president come for you in the great state of Minnesota.
Thank you very much. We're very happy that he came. I mean, to showcase what we call our treasures, our people in our industry.
You have a website, Pete, and you are the endorsed Republican, right? There's no primary in your race?
Yeah, I am the endorsed Republican candidate. My website is real simple, PeteStauber4Congress.com, STAUBER, PeteStauber4Congress.com. And people can go on the website, take a look, and see what we stand for.
Well, good luck up there. It's time for a Republican again.
You betcha. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Pete Stauber joining us. He is running for Congress. He is the reason that President Trump came to Minnesota in the first place. The seat to remember was Oberstar, the Jim Oberstar seat, and then Chip Kravac came in, a military veteran, and unseated the juggernaut Oberstar, only to serve one term, and for multiple reasons, ended up being the Rick Nolan. Let me just tell you a little story about this district. I need to refresh your memory, because we have terrible memories politically. Okay. Rick Nolan was a liberal, kind of hippie congressman guy back in the 70s. Oberstar somehow got elected then too, and later, and he became the chair of the Transportation Committee, and that's why northern Minnesota got a whole bunch of roads. Go to Duluth. Look at that stupid interstate highway system. If you've ever been to Duluth, they don't need all that stuff. That's insanity. The tunnels, the overpasses, the underpasses. Give me a break. It's obnoxious, and it's unsustainable. It's going to cost a fortune when that stuff starts to crumble here in a few years, right? It already is costing a fortune just to maintain. Jim Oberstar got all that stuff. He was a huge juggernaut, right? Okay, that's why he kept getting reelected. People loved it. He brought in a ton of money. Ended up basically living in Washington, D.C. And that bit him in the behind because all of a sudden Chip Kravac came forward and said, yeah, we're getting roads, but where's your congressman? Who is he? What kind of, where is this guy? So they wanted somebody who was local. They wanted somebody, it's like, yeah, who is this guy? He became a Washington bigwig. So after decades of being in Congress, Chip Kravac wins by appealing to the local people and saying, I'm one of you, right?
Right.
For multiple reasons, he lost re-election. Not really, it's a long story. His wife got a big promotion out east and this and that and the other thing. And if any of us who were following that remember that. But Terrell Clark, who had run twice unsuccessfully for Senate here in St. Cloud, beating, of course, yours truly, Dan the Ox Oxner, ultimately losing twice to Dave Kleiss, but insisting that she just desperately wanted this Senate seat, got to have the Senate seat. Somehow I ended up saying that too. Didn't go well. Right? So she called me a shock jock, and she called me a terrible, I can't believe the people of St. Cloud would even take this guy seriously, though she did it cordially.
Okay.
And so that was just a one-year special election deal to fill the term remaining for Dave Kleiss when he got elected to a mayor, right? This is before the switch over in the mayoral elections, too. So it was 1 year, and so she had to run for re-election, and she beat Jeff Johnson, who ended up being the Republican candidate the next time around, our soon-to-be city councilman, then Jeff Johnson, right? Okay, so stay with me here. So Terrell Clark wins re-election for the Senate seat. Well, all of a sudden, that's not good enough for her. She wants to be in Congress. And Michelle Bachmann's the congresswoman. So she gives up her Senate seat, thinking she can beat Michelle Bachmann for Congress.
Yeah, who wouldn't assume you could pull that off?
Okay, so she loses. Of course. So now she doesn't have the Senate seat and she's not in Congress. So what does she do? She rents an apartment or somehow moves to Duluth for a few months to run for Congress there against Chip Kravac. Only to have the Democratic Party up there go, wait a minute, we can't have her be our candidate. So they dusted off Rick Nolan, the hippie from the 70s. Will you please rescue us? This is how I'm seeing it anyway.
Yeah.
And this is actually how it happened. I'm comfortable with that, but it's one man's opinion.
Right.
So that's how they got Rick Nolan up there, because they were defending themselves against a carpetbagging Terrell Clark, who had no business being up there because she was from Arizona, lived in St. Cloud for a while, wasn't never good enough for whatever office she was seeking, and finally it bit her. So now she's in there just begging for some sort of political opportunity. Ends up fading away. right?
Who moves all over the country looking
Ends
for
up
a job
fading
they
away.
can get
Now
progress?
she has just sold or is trying to sell her house in St. Cloud, has rented an apartment or somehow is moving to a different district, county commission district, and thinks she can be a county commissioner now. Running against Steve Gottwald and Craig Baumgars.
What?
So it's just like, what? All the while, her husband now is working in Wadena, appointed by the governor to be a judge there. Okay. So that's kind of the story of how the 8th Congressional District ties into good old St. Cloud. It's a long story, but Pete Stauber is trying to go back and say, no, I'm your local guy. I'm the guy that's in touch with you. I'm the veteran. I'm the local county commissioner up here. I was on the Hermantown City Council. I should be your congressman.
That makes sense.
And that makes sense. I haven't heard, maybe Terrell Clark decided she didn't want to move back to Duluth for a couple of weeks to try to run for Congress there and decided county commissioner here would be a better deal. I don't know.
I want to move one more time.
224. This is KNSI's Ox in the Afternoon.